High-powered New York defense attorney Joe Tacopina has been hired to represent baby Lisa's parents, and he joins us now. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Judge.
Okay, Joe, what do you make of Dr. Baden's theory that this whole thing is an accident, that Deborah Bradley may have accidentally rolled over the baby and the baby died by accident?
I like Michael Baden. You know, he's a friend, but yeah, it's good TV, I guess, but it's rank speculation. There's absolutely not a stitch of evidence at all in this case that there's an accidental death caused by Deborah. And, you know, when she hears that stuff, when we try to limit her exposure, it really it causes her such great pain. I mean, understand, this is a woman, a family who's going through a tremendous traumatic event, the disappearance of an 11-month-old baby.
But
and
Joe,
she believes, yeah.
Yeah, Joe, but you do have to admit that there is damning evidence in that affidavit for the search warrant, including the fact that police say that an FBI-trained cadaver dog hit on the scent of a deceased body in the bedroom of Deborah Bradley on the floor near her bed.
Judge, that doesn't even concern me a little bit. It doesn't even cause me to waver 1 second in my conviction that this woman had absolutely nothing to do with the disappearance of her baby. I've spoken to, and we've engaged one of the top experts in the world on cadaver dogs and detection dogs, really. And I've gone to school in the last 24 hours in that discipline. I will tell you this. First of all, what those dogs are trained to scent is decomposition of human remains. And that's what a cadaver dog does. Decomposition, aside from the timeline not working out, because you know, the people were with, neighbors were with Deborah, and the baby was in the house up until about 10:30 that night. They called 911 at 4 in the morning. With the other two boys in the bed, don't forget there were her two other 6- and 8-year-old sons in that room, in that bedroom. There's no scenario where there would be time enough to cause anyone to decompose. But put that aside for a second. Put that aside for a second, because I don't believe she had anything to do with this. What I will tell you is this. Decomposition of human remains, you know what that includes, Judge? Fecal matter. You know what's contained in diapers?
But Joe, with all due respect, Joe, it's not decomposition. It's a deceased body. It didn't say decomposition.
It doesn't matter what the detective wrote in the affidavit. Don't forget, that's the detective's language. That's not an expert. I've spoken to the foremost expert in the field who's testified and works with the FBI. And this individual says, well, yes, the deceased body, and the way they detect the deceased body is by decomposition.
Okay, Joe, and I know I'm coming up against a hard break. Did your client ever call her cell when she realized that the baby was missing? Did she ever try to call to see who'd answer that cell?
Well, understand this. They didn't have her cell. Her cell was gone, and those were her house phones. They had their Jeremy's work phone when he went across to the neighbor's house, and the baby,
the neighbor said she didn't have Lisa. Did she call the cells that she says were taken?
Judge, let me finish. I'm trying to answer your question, but it's not a yes or no answer. When Jeremy was across the street at the neighbor's house, and they said the baby was there, he used his work phone to call 911, and 911 came immediately. Deborah, at that point, was on the floor trembling. She didn't have her phone. She didn't have a phone to call her cell phone. So the answer is no. But they gave that information to the police.
I guess the answer to the question is no. Joe, when exactly were you retained, and will the benefactor, based on this new information, continue to retain you on behalf of Deborah and her husband?
No, Judge, you know, I mean, you've been a practicing attorney for a long time. I don't get into, that's an attorney-client matter. I don't get into who engaged me, who's footing my bill, if you will. It's irrelevant, quite frankly. I got to tell you this. If they had $5 million, it wouldn't matter, because I wouldn't be involved in this case if I believed Deborah killed or had anything to do with the disappearance of her daughter. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be the right attorney for it.
Joe, will your client sit down with law enforcement now?
Judge, they've sat down with law enforcement for a grand total of about 17 hours, repeatedly over 4 times. They've consented to everything they've asked them to. We are absolutely willing to cooperate. They want answers. But what we don't want is to participate in a witch hunt where a few select detectives have decided that she did it from the first hour. I mean, imagine this. The responding detectives to that house that morning, is the responding detectives accuse her of murder without a stitch of evidence, and she's looking for them to find her daughter. And it's just not right, Jeanine. It's just not.
Joe, does your client have an alcohol problem?
I don't think she has an alcohol problem at all. I mean, She drinks alcohol. She has wine at night. But, what's I think more important is the two witnesses that came to light yesterday. That's a vital fact in this case. That's real evidence. Cadaver dogs are investigatory in nature, not evidentiary in nature. They're used for investigations. They're not used to bring someone to justice, if you will, to trial. And they're certainly not used to convict. Two witnesses a mile apart, Judge, who saw the same thing, a 140-pound male holding a baby in a diaper the morning of the disappearance, early morning hours of the disappearance. That's something that hopefully that lead will turn into something of fruition.
Well, of course, and the investigation continues. And Joe Tacopina, we thank you for being with us this evening. And up next, the family investigator on the bombshells in the search warrant. And what are baby Lisa's parents really saying? Body language expert Tanya Ryman is here to analyze.